Five Nights at Freddy's is one of the scariest games to ever exist. Alright, maybe not one of the scariest, but like maybe it's a bit further up there, the scarier stuff, but either way, it is still a haunting game. And while most of it is just gameplay and jump scares that will either make you laugh or genuinely terrify you, there is a lot of dark meaning to the game. Now, quick disclaimers before I start. I am not the best FNAF lover and all that stuff, so I might forget quite a lot of stuff. Anyways, if you haven't yet, please subscribe to my channel. And yeah, this is just the intro. I don't need to prepare my intro, so yeah. When we get to the actual video, we'll get more into serious mode. Anyways, before we begin, please subscribe as we adventure down the iceberg. On level 1 of the iceberg, we have the jump scares. Now, I know some of you may be thinking, but they're really scary. They're the main part that makes this game scary. And yes, while that's true, we'll base this iceberg off of, like, the disturbing parts and all that, and, like, all the stories. Like, sure, in terms of the scariness, it would go to the jump scares. They would be at the bottom tier for quite obvious reasons. Like, they would be all the way at the bottom of the iceberg. But this is just in terms of, like, the story. But yeah, sometimes the jump scares aren't even that disturbing or scary. They just come across as funny sometimes. And while they can get you, they're not as scary as a factor. And, like, it's a horror game. Like, basically every horror game has jump scares. And they're quite easy to get used to. And not all of the games are even that scary. Some of them are just goofy. And that's why it's level 1. The voice lines are here just for the same reasons that the jump scares are. Like, sure, some of them can be really disturbing. Some even give you clues to, like, what's happened to them. For example, Wither Chica describes how she's the first. Now, having this in tier 1 might be controversial, but it might be a bit more understandable as we go through the list. That some of the voices do indeed sound really scary and, like, really disturbing, but when you see the actual stories, it just gets even more disturbing. Like, someone's mentioning their story isn't as disturbing as seeing the story. And as you know, in FNAF, you see the story quite a lot. So yeah, we'll get to that later on, though, when we go further down. Golden Freddy has every right to be mentioned on this list. Like, we might not be mentioning many of the FNAF characters, but Golden Freddy has every right to be mentioned, because he was just such a mysterious character. Not that much anymore, but in FNAF 1, when we first see him just stand there, and when he jump scares you, he just stares into your soul. I am one of the only people that probably thinks this, but to me, he is genuinely just so terrifying. It's so creepy to see him just look into your soul. It's uneary, and not only that, his laugh, it's all just so creepy. Circus Baby is known as quite a manipulative character, luring the main character from Five Nights at Freddy's sister location to a lot of stuff, which would unfortunately lead to the tragic fate of Elizabeth Afton. Circus Baby would lure Elizabeth Afton towards her using the power of ice cream, leading to the attack happening, where Circus Baby would attack Elizabeth Afton. Elizabeth Afton would end up trapped inside Circus Baby and have the control over her. And sucks to see William Afton didn't really do anything about it. But yeah, William Afton's kind of a bad guy, so what would we all expect? The Shadow animatronics are probably one of the more interesting characters on this list. We don't see them a lot at all. They're kind of like mysterious characters. Just like the Endos, they play a role as an Easter egg. Like, they don't really have a big role in a game, they're just an Easter egg. For example, Five Nights at Freddy's 2, you can see them in the parts and service room. The Shadow animatronics come along with Shadow Freddy and Shadow Bonnie, and the sad theory that makes this disturbing is not only these characters are scary, but they are also, which is quite obvious, said to be abandoned people who are trapped in suits and unable to get out, and they're just souls lurking around everywhere. They're like more victims to the tragedies of the time William Afton was on his rampage. Unlike the Endos, who are kind of just there, the Shadows have some big story. Fanny is a very different character in the FNAF series. And not only that, Fanny's mask has a very interesting story. And Fanny's mask is also a mind-controlling mask. If she puts the mask on, she is influenced by Springtrap and Glitchtrap's actions, not really knowing what she's doing. Like, she will just completely forget about everything and go insane. She will have Springtrap's consciousness. Without the mask, Fanny could be a completely different character, showing completely different personality and acting like an ordinary person, not being on a rampage. Let's not forget that in Five Nights at Freddy's VR Help Wanted, Glitchtrap actually has a reluctant follower, meaning that maybe Fanny could be the follower. This is just me, but I'm pretty sure that if you put on the bunny mask, then you're pretty sure just going to end up in Springtrap / William Afton's little army, and you will just be a part of his team. Speaking of Glitchtrap, just like Fanny, Glitchtrap is another counterpart of Springtrap, appearing in the game Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted or Five Nights at Freddy's VR. She is a massive emotional manipulator. While Springtrap would just go around being evil, Glitchtrap was more of just an emotional manipulator, and while they still had the same presence and personality, they were both still very evil and dangerous. They both share slightly different personalities. Glitchtrap technically just manipulates all of the animatronics and gives the main character in the game a scary vibe. The entity is not only a manipulator, but he will put the kids into a very scary state, not giving a fun time for Fazbear Frights. Let's just say one thing, guys, to end this chapter off. Glitchtrap's not scared of death. If you've ever wondered why Gregory is a pretty quiet character, then it's because he is pretty careful and emotional around his surroundings. Now, why is that? Now, his life is actually, like, the bit where he's suffered is actually more to do with his personal life than it is to do in the FNAF universe. And it is considered that he is cautious around people because people have always been bad to him, treated him horribly. So yeah, it's honestly sad to see poor Gregory just so sensitive. It's quite obvious to why this one is here. If you know the FNAF gameplay, Fazbear Frights is basically just the same as everything else. People go to a restaurant, I'm pretty sure it is, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, yeah. Sorry guys, I know it's kind of stupid, I don't know that, but still. So yeah, they go to a restaurant, then everyone just goes missing. We all know the shenanigans if we play Five Nights at Freddy's. And yeah, we also get a big role from Puppet here. She protects all the kids, but while one of the kids was killed by Springtrap outside the pizzeria, that would be Puppet's soul, and Puppet wouldn't be able to save any more people. And in fact would just suffer the same stuff as them. So, in Five Nights at Freddy's sister location, the very confusing game, not only you would get assistance from Circus Baby, but you would also get assistance from this computer. And unfortunately, both your assistants are very evil. This computer may sound harmless, they just want to know your name and get you through the sister location place, but they are actually manipulating you into many obstacles. Like, sure, you're going to get money from doing it and all that, and you're going to get to have some popcorn and watch TV if you complete it. But if you think about it, the computer guy is just leading you to traps. Like, he literally made you deal with biddy babs, balor, all that stuff. And he's basically just trying to get you killed. Now, this may not sound that disturbing, but it really is. When you realise how much Michael Afton has just went through, thanks to the tasks Mr. Computer Guy gave him. Now, I don't really remember the name of Mr. Computer Guy's FNAF fans out there, please don't hate me for not knowing the name of Mr. Computer Guy from FNAF Sister Location. I am very sorry. Alright guys, we've made it to the best ending out of all the FNAF games, and it's not even close. So, Pizzeria Simulator, which is FNAF 6, is a pretty normal game, and in fact has a lot of lighter elements compared to the other games. Until you move on to the ending, when you finally complete the game, when the entire place you are working at sets on fire, leaving Afton, Lefty, Molten Freddy, and Scrap Baby all to just burn inside. Except for maybe Afton, because, you know, he always comes back. Maybe come back a little bit better next time. Your design was a bit questionable, if you know what I mean. When we all played the first Five Nights at Freddy's game, we probably just saw it as a normal horror game, until you realise that the main 4 animatronics are victims, and they were placed inside the suits, making a very disturbing story. They would all get brutally attacked by William Afton, and they would become the iconic mascots we know them as, and we didn't really know much about their past selves, and it's honestly kind of just sad to see these poor people, or kids, just have their lives taken away to be in suits. It's so dark to think about. And apparently people are going around saying that Bonnie, I don't remember the kid of Bonnie's name, but apparently he died fighting, and if that's true, that would honestly be really funny and cool. What do you think of when you think of the Bite of 87? I think of nothing.
Was that the Bite of 87?
Oh wait, never mind, it was the Bite of 83. My bad guys, I just had to throw in the meme. Anyways, the story's pretty straightforward. A bunch of bullies take this kid called the Crying Child, and they take the child all the way to this animatronic called Fredbear. They would place the Crying Child inside of Fredbear, and then Fredbear would activate and crush the Crying Child inside of him, causing a fatal death. I'm not gonna lie, speaking of the fact it was the Crying Child, the poor guy did nothing. This one's just stark and disturbing. We have made it to the final 2. Please don't get mad at me if I forgot any. I could have. But yeah, you may be wondering, why is the scoop all the way up at tier 4? I don't know, I just thought it was an interesting one to put down. It's pretty mysterious. This happens at the end of Sister Location, which is a really good ending, by the way, where Michael Afton would get scooped by this thing called the Scoop, obviously, the Scoop would lunge towards him and absolutely tear him apart. And then it would cut out for a few seconds. Then it would cut to Michael Afton opening his eyes. They are purple and he looks really cool. It's quite a good ending. But man, it is dark and it's just so eerie. And the way Michael Afton stares at you at the ending, it's like, what happened to him? And that leaves us with this guy right here. Mr. William Afton, my favourite character in Five Nights at Freddy's. And the guy that basically started the entire story. The monster. That's the reason for all the people's deaths. But you know, he always comes back, so the story could never come to an end. And not gonna lie, it's still quite possible that he is going to come back a lot in the future. But honestly, I really don't mind. Springtrap's got a long tail. If you want to know about Springtrap's full story, then maybe just watch MatPat. I'm just going to describe what happens at the end. So it starts off with Springtrap as the purple guy walking around everywhere in rooms and stuff until a bunch of ghosts appear and start taunting him, leading him to get terrified and hide inside of a Springtrap suit, which is how we got into Springtrap or Spring Bonnie. And then the spring locks would go off, causing him to get absolutely destroyed in there. And yeah, it was pretty gruesome. Even I got a bit terrified of it. And if the spring traps, not the spring traps, if the spring locks go off, then that just means his body's going to get absolutely destroyed, because the spring locks will, like, if they go off, they will just go into Springtrap's stomach, because, you know, Springtrap's inside there, or William Afton. But, yeah, that's about it. We are now at the surface, away from all those nightmares. If you haven't already, please subscribe. I want to get to 1K by the end of the year. And I'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching.